All right, so we got our little machine to make points. So let's play with them a little, and maybe let's just look at this from the front. For now, the background color, maybe even just lose the grid. Turn that off. Turn this off. All right, so we can make as many points as we want, and we can spit them any distance apart that we want. So let's manipulate them a little bit. So what I'm going to do is if you want to add a node between another node, you just select where you want it to be and hit tab, and I'm going to add it. Okay. And then I need to add something to it. So we're going to create a value node. So the data type is really important. So we have a vector of float. A float is a number that has a decimal, and a vector is, 3 or 4 values. So now Bifrost is trying to help me out. When I clicked on that and said create value node, it automatically knew that I wanted a vector 3. So now if I add something to these numbers, it'll add to the position of the points, right? Which is the start. Now I don't want to just add, I mean, I want to be able to do something interesting with these values, right? So I can add numbers and that'll kind of move the points around in space, kind of like an offset, which you could think about this as like the translation component of a transform node, but I want to do something a little more interesting. So I'm going to create a sine. So a sine is from trigonometry. It'll create a waveform from -1 to +1 over a number value. So I'm going to plug my sine into x, and nothing's happening because I need to plug in a value. And I could just, scrub this value, right? Ooh, and I don't want it in the x either. I want it in the y. See why in a second. But what's kind of more interesting is if I plug in a value that increments or builds every frame. So I'm going to just make my timeline a little longer. And I'm going to plug in time. And in my time node, I have a few different output scenarios. I have a frame, seconds, which depends on your frame rate, but it'll be some fraction of, for now I have it set to 24, so let's do that. And then hit play. And what's going to happen now is the points are going to oscillate along that sine wave as time increases. So let's keep going with this. Maybe I'm going to make some more points. I'll make them a little closer together and kind of see what's happening. Okay, so right now they're all moving together and oscillating as a group. But what I want to have happen is each point move through the wave. I want like each x position to be at a slightly different position in the wave. All right, so let's see here. I also kind of want to start thinking about this thing a bit modularly. So for example, I could add as I've done, I've added to the position before the points are constructed. But if I'm starting to think about this as a tool or as something I can apply to anything, I might want to kind of break this into pieces here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just grab this connection here. I'm going to turn off the add. Right. And I'm going to group these things together. Okay, so a group in Bifrost is called a compound. So a compound is a way of organizing and kind of making modules out of your graph. So this first module is basically like make a row of points. All right. So let's do that. So to make a compound, I just hit group, and it has a name. And as always, especially now, you want to start naming stuff. So we'll call this row of points. And right now there's just an output. If we want to kind of promote things out of our compound so that we can look at them up a level, we can create an input. So I'm going to grab all these things so I can kind of alter my size, and actually the start value I'm going to leave alone. I need that. Delete that and do step. So just start and step. All right, and now when I go back here, now I can see that I can change these right from my compound. And if I wanted to, I could actually do the same thing and make another input, input node, and then whatever I drag to this at this top level will be visible in the outliner, which is really cool, but I'm not quite ready for that yet. Okay, so first thing is row of points. All right, so I can make my row, set the size, and set the distance between them. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to start to make is a sine deformer. All right, and I'm trying to build it in a way that I can apply it to anything. So what I'm going to do is get point positions, GPP. Okay. So how this works, so any attribute you want to mess with, you basically get that attribute, right? You get that data, you do something to that data, and then you reapply it to original points. So I got my point positions, then I'm going to do something, which is I'm going to add my sine deformer, and then I'm going to apply that new value back to my points. And it seems a little, I don't know, tricky at first, but it'll get much more, this component of, I mean, not to say that Bifrost is easy, but this component of it actually gets a lot less painful as you go through it. So I got my point positions, I'm adding a value, which is my little oscillator thing, and then I just need to set them back to the original points, my new values, basically apply the values to what? To my original row of points. All right. And this is a slightly more slightly more connections than we had before, but the thing that's cool now is if I wanted to, I could bring something else in here, for example, a sphere, and drag my sphere in here. And replace that, and that, and now see, look, the sphere is oscillating. Right? Right? So that's starting to hint at what's super cool about this. But I don't really want the sphere. I want to go back to where I was. So I have my row points, and I'm just going to replug this all back together again. And now we're back. Okay, so that's why I'm kind of constructing it in this way. All right, so the next thing I want to do is have the wave different across the x. Okay, so to have the points be different across the x, I need to get the x value and manipulate it somehow. So what I'm going to do, get my point positions. Right now it's a vector. I want a scalar. I want the single value. So I'm going to convert my 3 values, vector 3 to scalar. And then I'm going to add it to my time. So it's going to be each point is going to be offset from each other a little bit. So we're going to add another add. At our x, our seconds. Plug it in here. And now they're offset from each other. This is already pretty neat. But we want some more control over this thing. We want to be able to control the wavelength. We want to be able to control the speed, right? So the wavelength is called the frequency. The height of the wave is called the amplitude, and the speed is the speed. So, for example, if we wanted to be able to speed this up, what we could do is add a multiply node. And I'm just hitting F to kind of frame up what I'm looking for, right? So I can add my seconds, put that into output. And then with that, I say create a value node. So right now it's set to 0, so it's not going to move at all. And then basically, whatever I put this at, it's going to control the speed. So let's see. Faster. Really fast. I can even go slower. All right. So once again, it's good to start naming stuff. So we're going to call this thing speed. All right. And then what about the frequency? So this is taking the x position, and well, let's just see. What if I add a multiply node to this? All right, so now they're all moving in sync, and as I increase this, I'm controlling the frequency. All right, call this frequency. Oh, let's try that again. Rename. Speed. And then let's there we go, show the names. Okay, and we can oscillate between the name or the value. So we have our frequency and our speed, which is so far looking pretty awesome. All right. Okay, I want to do a couple more things before we wrap this up. So we have frequency and speed, and we also want to have amplitude. So for that, what I'm going to try, and I also want to package all this up. Into a compound. So let's see, let's do the amplitude next. Do another multiply at the end. And frame that up. Value node. And what do we want? Y, X, Y, and Z values. So that keeps it. Actually, you know what? Maybe before do it, I'm not gonna do that. Let's do it over here. Let's do it right here, because then we'll just have a nice scalar. There. Multiply. All right, and then this will be the amplitude. This amplitude. On that wrong. Set this to 1. It's 1, but we can go. So now we got all the controls. Speed, frequency, and amplitude. All right, so now that we've got all this, let's make compound for this that we can use again. So I'm going to grab all of this. We're going to rename this Sine Deformer. And let's make sure it still works. Let's try it with another piece of geometry. So let's try plane. All right, which is awesome. All right, can make it much wider, more points. Cool. Alrighty, cool. Maybe I want to clean this up a little more. To prefer my points. I don't like these two geometry inputs for the same thing. That's a little messy, so let's fix that. And then I also want to have my controls on the outside of my node. So I'm going to grab this geometry. I'm going to go all right. Plug the same geometry into both. Delete that port. That tidies things up a little bit. So now there's only one thing to go in, and then we also want to promote some of our controls. So frequency, speed, and amplitude, wherever that is. All right. So we're going to call this amplitude rename this frequency, and we'll rename this one all right. And that's a lot more tidy. If we want to make this look nice, just hit L. So we have a node that creates points. We can also drag geometry in. We have our Sine Deformer. It has our, we can control how fast it goes. We can control the frequency of the waves. We can control the wave height. All right. And then this is just a look at it. So that is a good place to start for now. We'll keep going on the next one.